Hello, and welcome to Round Robin. I'm Robin McCormick, Communications and Marketing Director for the City of Hampton. Today I have with me Dr. Linda Shifflette, the Superintendent of Schools, and we're going to talk about some of the recent accomplishments of the schools, but also the tough choices they're going to have to make in this budget year. Welcome, Dr. Shifflette.
Good morning.
Good morning. Is it okay if I call you Linda?
Absolutely.
Okay. I would like to ask you first, before we get into the difficult nitty-gritty, to discuss a couple of things you're very proud of that the school system has accomplished this year or in recent years.
As many people may be aware, the Commonwealth of Virginia put in a new accreditation standard for this past year, and it included a graduation rate. And I am just delighted that all 4 of our high schools met the mark. And that wasn't the case in all of the surrounding school divisions in the area. And so it was a lot of very focused work on behalf of our individuals and our schools. And we not only made, you had to get to 81% to be provisional, or 85% graduation rate to be fully accredited. Every single one of our schools surpassed the 85%. And as a matter of fact, 3 of them surpassed 90%. And so that's a great accomplishment on behalf of the young people in our community, the fact that we were able to get such a high mark on our graduation rate.
That is a big accomplishment, because if I remember correctly, for a couple of schools, that was a big jump in over a 1 or 2 year period. So that had to be a focused effort.
Yes, it truly was. And there were some very creative things that were done. Some of our principals became what we call Facebook stalkers. And so we were able to make connections with young people in a variety of ways. Also to include hiring 2 people, actually repurposing jobs, to make them graduation specialists. And so they would go out in the field and try to contact our young people and convince them to come back to school, and then once they were back in school, help to provide the supports that they needed to be successful. Another thing that we're really very proud of is that we had a young man, Joshua Scott, from Hampton High School's IB program, who is accepted into Harvard. He was a valedictorian of Hampton High School. The salutatorian was accepted into Princeton.
Wow.
And so, you know, we're very, very proud of that accomplishment. And already this year, we've already been informed that Brianna Atkins, another student at Hampton High School, is an early acceptance at Harvard.
That really is an accomplishment. That's amazing. Well, one of the things I was going to ask you is, when you begin to talk about the school system, I think some of our viewers may turn off. They say, you know, my kids are grown, I don't have children in the school system, it's a lot of my tax dollars. Frankly, why should I care? How would you answer that?
Well, the school division is a vital component of the health, the vitality of a community. And a strong school division makes for a strong community in many respects. It increases property values, it entices businesses and industries. So we're an economic driver, we're a social driver. You know, the schools should be a focus in a community, part of what helps to cement the community together. So schools are important. They're important for those of us who have children, those of us who have grown children, and for those of us who don't have any children at all, because the health of the school division is so critical to the health of the community.
I mean, certainly when people are looking to locate in an area, maybe they're moving to Hampton Roads for a job, or they've been transferred here for the military, if they have children, it is sometimes the most important consideration in where to locate.
Absolutely, and we make every attempt to help people when they're making those decisions to look at Hampton City Schools, and we provide tours for them. We do one-to-one. We'll take them into schools. We have a multitude of choice available to our parents. And we honestly feel that we are able to help any child. So if you come with a child who's gifted, we have a place for children who are gifted. We have all the support, the options available. If you come to us with a child who has special needs, we have an excellent special education program.
Now, the fact that you have those wide variety of programs and that you are adaptable and find the right fit for students, that's got to make this budget year even tougher, because it's not a good climate. Can you explain how the school system is funded, from what sources, and what those mandates are from the state, and what they're funding or not funding for the next school year?
Well, when we look at the funding for a school division, it's primarily comprised of 3 sources: federal, state, and local. And as you well know, the funding sources from all of those areas have been going down for the past several years. As a matter of fact, Hampton City Schools has had a budget deficit of over $31 million over the past few years. So it's meant tremendous kinds of reductions in our personnel. We've lost 445 full-time equivalent individuals in our school division. That's 14.2% of our workforce.
Wow.
And so we've had to look at doing things creatively. As you well know, we looked at how we use our buildings. Mm-hmm. We've closed schools to achieve efficiencies. We've done many things so that we can be fiscally responsible, because we truly believe that we have to work within the money that's provided to us, but still provide the greatest opportunity to our students. So in terms of how have we managed this in relation to the money and the program that we give to students, we've developed several decision-making models that really put at the core of our decision-making the impact on the classroom and the classroom teacher. And so as we developed our decision-making model, we protect our core business, which is learning.
Mm-hmm. Now, how do you, I know also the state was separating their funding, looking at funding for instruction and non-instructional. And it's really easy as an outsider to say, well, non-instructional, that's less important. But isn't that also the buses and the transportation that get kids to school, and the cafeteria, and some of those are paying the electricity bill? I mean, it's not instructional, but it is fundamental to operating a school system.
Yeah, at one point there was some talk, and it was called the 65% rule, where they would have school divisions devote 65% of their budget to instruction. Well, on the face value of that sounds absolutely reasonable.
Sure.
But it was kind of the devil in the details, because as you looked at the definition, it was excluding the building principal, the school nurse, the transportation, all things that are critical to provide the support that you need in a school. Obviously the principal is the instructional leader in the school. Mm-hmm. Obviously you have to have the buses to bring the children to school. And so, as school divisions across the Commonwealth looked at that potential factor, it was just very critical that we help educate people about how everyone that works in the school division supports the learning of children.
Right,
so
right.
That did not pass.
Okay. Now, you mentioned closing a school, and I know that is an emotional decision, but you also have to look at the fiscal realities. How does that save money?
Well, when you close a school, obviously the staff will, there'll be some impact on staff. The teachers will follow the students.
Right.
So, for the most part, teachers will be able to remain with the division. It is the onesie twosies in the schools, the principal, the assistant principal, the guidance counselor, the nurse, and some of the resource teachers that we may be able to find some efficiencies and reduction in personnel. And typically what happens is when we close a school, we disperse the students, and then we disperse the personnel to follow the children. Over the past several years, we've had enough attrition that we've had very few individuals who've actually lost their jobs. We've been able to backfill them into positions where people have either retired or have decided to relocate somewhere else.
So a lot of your reductions have come from vacant positions,
Many
as
of
much
them.
as possible.
Many of them.
Certainly not all.
Sure.
Well, what are you anticipating? And I know this show will actually air partly after you've revealed your budget. And I know you don't want to tip your hand too much, but what are you looking at in terms of some of the choices you're going to have to make for this coming year?
Well, in terms of our budget, what's really difficult this year is that we're working on the governor's budget. And the timeline for me to do the presentation for our proposed budget is before we'll have the real budget. And so we'll be putting forth a reduction of $5 million. And in that we will again have used our decision-making model, so you'll see very little impact on classroom instruction, little to none. You'll see more impact on support services, as has been in the past. So typically that's what will happen in the budget proposal that I'll be presenting on March 7th.
Okay. Are there anything else you'd like to add about budget or your input process or what happens next?
I suppose that the thing that has been so great about being in a community like Hampton is that we've had this great relationship with our city partners, with the city manager and city council. They have been great to us, and the past couple of years we were able to build some new schools. In addition, they've been giving us some increased funding for our capital improvement projects. And I hope the citizens have been able to see some of those. For example, Barron Elementary was the one that's most recently been completed, where the breezeway that separated the two parts of the building has now been completely enclosed. And it just enhances the safety and security of the building as well as the aesthetics of the building. And so we certainly want to always say thanks to our city partners because they understand the importance of having a strong, safe, successful school division.
Well, I know I saw that slideshow when the school board and city council met jointly, and we have been airing it on Channel 47, so I hope people have seen. It's pretty transformational what we've been able to do with, and some of it is facade, but it also is security and safety and keeping kids out of the rain and the bad weather when they have to go under a breezeway or arriving at school. So is there anything else you'd like to add about the budget?
Well, stay tuned. We are expecting our final budget on March 10th, and that's assuming that the General Assembly finishes its work. So we're optimistic, but guardedly optimistic about the potential for additional revenues.
So hopefully that could come through the General Assembly, or the potential also for taxpayers, for local taxpayers to look at that too, because a lot of the city budget, some 60% of the homeowner taxes goes to the school systems. And with the drop in assessments, that's going to be, part B of the hit the school system is already going to be taking from the state.
Yeah, I don't think that a lot of people understand the complex funding nature of school divisions, but in Hampton we do have a formula, and as you stated, it's about 61.8, I believe, percent of the property tax revenue that's collected, as well as some utility taxes that are sent to the schools. And so our local contribution is something that, it's fairly stable for us. We have an idea about where it will be.
You can plan ahead.
As compared to other localities that don't have a formula, and then they must go and request each year. So.
Right, I saw that with York County, that they've made a pretty hefty request to the Board of Supervisors, and then it'll be a while before they find out what they will actually get. At least in this instance, you can do some planning and good communication.
And the other part of that is also the state revenue and the impact of the local composite index on a school division. And for Hampton, the local composite index went up again this year, which means that as the local composite index goes up, the money from the state goes down. There's an inverse relationship. And what it's saying is that, relatively speaking, they're saying that your locality should be in a better position to fund the school division. And so, as a result of that, we lost additional funding from the state this year. I know many people may have heard about the Virginia retirement system. That was the biggest driver in terms of our budget deficit this year. And while they give us some money
to compensate,
the revenue side is here, but the expenditure side is here, because they fund for only standards of quality positions, things that are mandated in state code. They don't fund for actual numbers of individuals.
And that's important to say too, that is why the Hampton City percentage is high, is because we wouldn't be happy with the school system that is just funded according to the state standards of quality. We believe in a better, stronger school system than that, and commit a lot of our tax dollars to it. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming by today, Linda. I appreciate the chance to talk to you. And obviously, this is a very moving target with the General Assembly, and you're still working on your budget. It's going to be a while before the details shake out, and maybe you'll come back again and talk about the school system in the future.
No, it's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all so much for tuning in to hear Dr. Shifflette explain this. As we said, a lot of times people don't tune into what's going on in the school systems if they don't currently have children in them. So we're going to periodically come back and revisit this topic because it is so important to the city of Hampton. Thank you, Linda.